Okay, good evening. This is Thursday, April 28th at 7:44 p.m. And we are about to start the RTM Public Works Committee meeting. And we have a quorum, so we will proceed. Has everybody received and read the agenda?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, does anybody have any problems with the agenda, suggested changes, amendments to the agenda? Without any problems, changes, amendments, then we will proceed forward as per the agenda. First item on the agenda, review and take action on Darien, Town of Darien appropriations, starting with the Sewer Operating Fund, $4,177,360. So I sent out the links to the OpenGov, and there were two documents there. One of which was starting on page, I think 267 in the budget. But there's also a kind of a summary, which was the second document, which I think might be a bit more manageable for the purposes of our meeting here. Appropriations in the sewer operating fund are used primarily to maintain, repair, operate the system of sewer mains, including trunk lines and interceptors and pumping stations that lift or propel sewage toward the treatment facility located in the city of Stamford. As I think you're all aware, we do not have a sewer treatment plant in the town of Darien. Everything that we generate goes to Stamford, and they process all of our sewage treatment. And of course, we pay them for that. Last year, we paid 14.58% of their total operating budget for that facility in Stamford. And capital costs required for reinvestment at that facility and for its upgrade to comply with state and federal standards, which are shared, those costs are shared with Darien because they take all of our affluent. Okay, so I think you're all pretty much familiar with the accomplishments of the Sewer Commission during the past year, particularly the I&I study, and now the first major project that we're going forward with, the 3,500 feet of sewer line and a number of manhole covers associated with them that's going to be replaced, or actually the sewer line will be relined and the number of manhole covers and trunks will be replaced. And that is out for bid, as I understand it, right now. And I believe Ed is hoping to try and get that actually implemented or started to be implemented in the fall, late fall or early winter of this year. So it's still a ways off, and that's the beginning of that analysis that's being conducted by the consultant. That's covered under phase 1. They expect to move right now and begin phase 2 with inspecting and running the cameras through another 8 miles of pipeline. They went after the first section because it was shown to be the most prone to needing repair, and they're then moving on to phase 2, which would be hopefully less prone to needing repair, but we won't know until all of that work is done. So they got 8 more lines of sewer line that they're going to go after and upgrade the Brookside pump station. This was things for 2022, and complete the CMOM manual, okay, and complete the audit of the Stamford facility invoicing. Objectives for 2022-23, continue phase 2 of the townwide I&I study, clean and video 8 more miles of sewer line, upgrade West Avenue pump station, implement recommendations for from the CMOM manual, work with Sewer Commission in ordinance revision for some pump connections, and continue sewer main spot repairs as they are found through camera inspections. So we're on our way. As you recall, I believe it was back in the late part of 2020, the RTM approved bonding I believe it was $2.8 million to help finance this study that's ongoing. And we were also fortunate through ARPA to have money made available, which was then recommended by the ARPA committee to cover the cost of this first phase of the 3,500 feet on Old Kings Highway South, which is estimated to cost in the area of $1 million. So, I mean, the sewer commissions, they're moving right along. I'm happy to see. So I don't see any reason why we wouldn't want to approve of their operating budget so they can carry on. Yes, Frank.
Rolf, I just want to remind folks that generally speaking, the sewer commission and the sewer operating funds are independent and separate from the town budget. That is, the funds for operating the sewer system is more or less 100% paid for by the fees of the people who use the sewer system. So even though we are making an approval here, this is not something that hits the general operating funds of the town. This is to allow the sewer commission to use the funds that they are raising from sewer users to fund sewer operations. So I don't want people to think that that this is somehow part of the general tax revenue, because it's not. This is all funded by fees that are administered by the sewer commission. Is that fair, Rolf?
That is absolutely correct. Yeah, this has nothing to do with the mill rate. That's totally separate from what we are pay as a sewer fee. We get a separate bill from the town every year for the sewer fee. If you exceed, well, no, excuse me, that's it. It's a separate bill every year for the sewer fee. They'd have to set their rates for the next year. I don't think they'll do that until May or June. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't think we're going to see the benefits of the I&I studies and the work that's about to begin, because they're just getting started. So,
great. But again, this is a separate pot of money from the whole town budget. This is, yes, this is independently administered by the sewer fund and only impacts people who are sewer users.
That is correct. Yeah, you have to be, yes, I agree. You have to be hooked up to the sewer system to get a bill and utilize the services. Right. So they have, on the next page, they have two listings here, one for revenues and one for expenditures. And of course, they're one in terms of the amount, they're the same. They have charges for services, fines and forfeits, other financing sources, and investment income for $4,177,360. And then expenditures, contractual services, $3,428,000, personnel, $555,892, transfers, $166,025, materials and supplies, $20,113, and contingency of $3,818, which also totals to $4,177,360. So what comes in goes out, and that's their operating budget. So does anybody have any questions? Do you want to delve any further into any part of the operating budget?
Hey, Ralph, could you just page forward when you start talking about numbers on a different page? Is that possible?
Yeah, it's operating fund. These are the accomplishments, the objectives. That's the 5-year outlook. And here is the sewer operating fund. That's the $4,177,000 in the revenues on the first few lines there, as you can see. And then below it is the expenditures. And you can see that they are Board of Finance approved. $4,177,000 revenue, $4,177,000 expenditures. So yeah, they're not a profit center.
And I think, Rolf, it's also worth noting that the increase from the current revised budget of 4,166 to 4,177 is only $11,000 increase against a base of over 4 million, which is a very, I mean, can't do the math in my head that fast, but that's less than 1/10%.
Yeah, very, very small. So, you know,
I know I'm biased, but I think this is the most important money that this town spends.
Yeah, I think sewers are important. It's not glamorous. Doesn't get a lot of attention. Although we have a special guest on tonight, Kate Hewitt from the Connecticut Examiner. She apparently has an interest in sewer systems, and she's listening in on our meeting tonight. If we go further on, this is the staffing and a breakdown of the various people within the department and how they're allocated, because a lot of these people are not dedicated entirely just to working on the sewer systems. Some of them are. If you see the line wastewater management, there's 2 people And so they are full-time dedicated to the sewers, whereas others are full-time equivalents, a quarter of a person here, and so on and so forth. And that comes up to 6.15 full FTE personnel to keep and maintain and service the sewer system. That's separate and apart from the work that's going on with the consultant. And sewer user accounts, this is the number of accounts projected for the current year, 5,425. Projected for the upcoming fiscal year, 5,450. So we're expecting 25 more user accounts. Now, I'm not sure how that works with the developments that are going on Heights Road and Corbin. I would have guessed maybe they're considered one user because they're not going to have a separate sewer fee for each apartment. That's for sure. Any questions about that per se? You can see that the CCF water use currently is 590 and they're projecting it to go up to 625. CCF. Frank, help me here.
The first C is hundreds, and then the other CF is cubic feet. So
Yeah,
hundreds of cubic feet.
Hundreds of cubic feet. Okay. A lot.
Right, and as a reminder, the whole point of the I&I study is that a large fraction, nearly 50% of the volume that we send to Stanford is not brought in from Aquarian. Like the amount of water that we send to Stanford is dramatically more than what we buy from Aquarian, and the increase there is the infiltration or the stormwater that comes in.
Yes, and so that's why we have the consultant working to try and help us discover where all that water is coming from, so we can reduce that and go back to Stanford and say, not so much, no, not so much, no more.
Right.
So we'll see how that goes.
I don't know that that's our exact negotiating position, but I think
yeah, I don't think it'll go quite that way, but maybe I can, when that date comes, maybe I can listen in and see how he approaches it. Here's revenues, interest passed through accounts.
Hey, Rolf, with no disrespect, we got a lot on the agenda. I'm ready to make a motion to pass this number.
Very good, Frank. I appreciate your reaching out to me there. Do I have a second to pass?
I'll second.
Okay, that's Wadi.
Yep.
Okay, so any other discussions on the motion? Questions, concerns? If not, is there anybody who would vote no against the super operating fund of $4,177,360? Anybody who would vote no? Is there anyone who would abstain from voting for the sewer operating fund? Therefore, by default, it is approved unanimously. Thank you very much for your patience in going through this. Okay, there is a sewer assessment fund, separate fund. I did a quick search on that website about the assessment fund. Apparently, these are fees there. It's considered part of revenue, where the tax collector and the tax office staff have a responsibility to protect the town's interest in matters of delinquent taxes and charges. Property taxes are payable in 2 installments. A secondary function is the billing and collection of sewer use charges and sewer assessments levied by the sewer commission. So these are monies that are levied for whatever reason, use and or delinquency in payment, and they're estimating that at $200,000. Does anybody have any questions about that? No. Do I have a motion to vote on the sewer assessment fund? Frank moves. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, who was that? Richard seconds. Richard Poley, thank you very much. Any discussion on the move, on the motion rather? Having heard none, we'll go to a vote. Does anybody vote no on the sewer assessment fund? Anybody voting no? Does anyone abstain voting for the sewer assessment fund? Anybody abstain? Okay, by default, the motion is unanimously approved. The last item on the sewer discussion is the capital fund, which is separate from the operating fund. And it just covers some things that are needed, I'm sure, for them to do their job, but is covered
So
as
Rolf, this would be capital that's used in the Darien system within the boundaries of our town. This would not be capital that goes to the city of Stamford for any upgrades to their equipment.
That is correct. This is money that we and our staff working for the public works in whatever interest of and dedication to our sewers need certain monies in order to do their job for various purposes.
Right, so things that would be covered like this, Rolf, would be like, you recall that we replaced a bunch of pumps in the last few years. We've also had to take steps to harden the pump houses, the ones in particular that are close to the sound due to rising water levels during storms. That's the sort of thing that we'd be spending money on here for these capital.
Right, now this particular year, here it is. Woo, woo, woo. Sewer capital, chemical root control, pump replacement, equipment replacement, and collection system rehabilitation. Okay, totaling that up, proposed to be $152,600. Can you all see that? Okay.
Rolf, I'll make a motion to pass it. It's a bargain at twice the price.
And I'll second.
Okay, Waddy seconds that. We have the motion on the floor. Does anybody have any questions, comments on voting for the sewer capital? Hearing none, we'll go to a vote. First question is, does anybody vote no? Anybody no? Does anybody abstain? Any abstentions for the vote? Okay, by default, this motion passes unanimously. Thank you all very much for your understanding and cooperation. Okay, so the other issue on the agenda is the parking lot administration fund. That is pretty much a very similar conversation to what we've had on sewers, except it's for parking. As you know, we maintain the parking lots for the commuters, and the parking lot also off of, what is that, Mechanics Road? That is also a parking lot that's actually those parcels, particularly the commuting parcel lots, are owned by the state. And we have, in essence, a lease agreement, but I don't think the lease has been renewed for quite some time. And so here's the parking operations fund. And starting on page 284, right here, okay? So adopted last year, charges for services, and then approved for this year. You can see that a drop from 710 to 630, fines and forfeits from 106 to 72.4, and miscellaneous from 8 to 8. You know, I'm sure that that's in response to what we've been seeing in terms of less use and need for attention to the parking lot because of a decrease in the number of people that are parking in the parking lots. So that's how I would interpret that, and I believe that is the case. Expenditures, again, down, transfers, personnel, materials and supplies. So, you know, it's going to be an interesting year to see, in fact, what happens with getting back to New York and how much activity. I mean, I've gone by the Neuroden Heights parking lot, and there are more people starting to take the train. That lot, particularly the daily lot, definitely seeing. The day I went by, the lot was pretty much full. So I think people are starting to get back. Okay, so here's the estimated personnel costs, 175. Parking tickets issued, maintenance and improvement in the parking space, finance approved budget, pro waitlist fee. They have all kinds of different tables breaking it down. Does anybody have any questions about moving
Yeah.
forward with,
Ralph, is the FTE full-time employee, and then they do just a percentage, they calculate it based on hours or something?
yeah, what they call it, the term they use, to my understanding, is full-time equivalent.
Okay.
Okay. So
Yeah,
they
makes
might have
sense.
people, on staff that, on this day they're working on the sewers, and then on that day they're working in the parking lot. So they apportion their work out so that you might see 0.2 people working for the parking because they're doing other duties
Got it.
during at
Thank
other
you.
times. You're welcome.
Yep.
So parking operations maintenance. Any other questions about our parking lot administration fund? We are obligated in the lease, even though the lease hasn't been renewed, to maintain these parking lots. So we do need to hold up our end of the bargain, so to speak. But I am curious to know, it's been years since those leases have been renewed with the state. So I don't know what's going on with that. Any other comments, questions on the parking fund?
Rolf, I'll just make a motion to approve the parking fund if we can.
Okay, do I have a second? Paige, Chris seconds. Thank you, Paige. Okay, we have motion on the floor to approve parking lot administration fund of $710,400. Any comments, questions, concerns, objections? No. Okay, we're going to vote. Does anybody vote no? Anybody voting no on the parking lot administration fund? Any abstentions? Any abstentions? Please speak up. No abstentions. The motion moves unanimously by default. Thank you very much. Last but not least, parking lot capital fund. Hope I can find that. Parking capital fund, page 292. Oh, here we go.
There you go.
All right, so what do we got here? Large enclosed snowblower. I remember Ed was all excited about that so that they could do a better job of clearing off the platforms. $40,000.
Which is the S lot?
South lot. No, Norotan Heights Railroad resurface south lot. That would be, the one between the platform and I-95. So
That's a big job.
that's a big lot, yeah. What do they got there? $350,000. It's a pretty good number.
Look, if Ed's got it in there, it's got to be required. I'll just make the motion to approve.
Okay, do I have a second? Jackie, are you seconding? Yes, Jackie Miller, she's stepping forward. Very good, thank you. All right then, we have a motion on the floor to vote on the parking lot capital fund of $390,000. Any questions or comments on the motion? Or amendments to the motion? None? All right then, we'll move to take a vote. Does anybody vote no? Anybody vote no on the parking lot capital fund? Speak now or hold your peace. Anybody abstaining? Any abstentions on the parking lot capital fund? No abstentions. Okay. Then by default, this motion moves on the parking lot capital fund for $390,000. Thank you very much. Okay. Quickly on the storm authority, I don't know if anybody's, since we last met, had any opportunity to speak to anybody in your neighborhood, someone you bump into downtown, whatever. Has anybody gotten any feedback about flood control for the town of Darien? None?
I did, in the last meeting, I mentioned that I had heard from a couple of people in District 2, and I did email with Carla Thompson, one of the people, and I said that I thought just to refresh your memories, she was concerned about not moving forward with past recommendations that had been made in this 2009 flood report. And as we discussed in the meeting a couple weeks ago, we didn't move forward, the town didn't move forward with that because many of the suggestions were on private land. And so I basically rehashed that conversation with her and said I thought that perhaps this stormwater authority, whether it was created whole cloth or whether, as we discussed last week, we turned the EPA committee into the stormwater authority, that this might be a way to just continue to make the stormwater conversation ever present so that we're not just waiting until the next flooding event. I didn't hear back from her about whether she wanted to support that, whether she wanted to convey that support to the Board of Selectmen or to our committee. But that's the only interaction I've had about that.
Okay. I think I forwarded a 3 days ago a link to the Greenwich, Connecticut, and they have a specific flood control board. And I don't know if you had a chance to look into that website at all, but they have a number of initiatives that they have listed there. Most of them are things involving municipal properties, if you will, drain holes and that need to be enlarged, that sort of thing. There is one section at the very end of that website that talks about private properties, and apparently there are some interactions that this control board has with private properties, but it appears to me that the main thrust of the control board is in the interest of what they can do on things that are owned by the municipality or responsibilities of the municipality. However, it does grant them the power to raise funds and levy fees against private entities in the interest of flood control. So, you know, how active they've been in doing that, it's hard to tell from the website.
Gotcha. I confess I missed that in my inbox. I would love the chance to look at it and maybe come back to this in the next meeting. I don't know what the procedure is for that.
Well, procedure is the big question in my mind as well. I also reached out to Frank Edelman because he's TGS&A, and in turn, Wayne Fox.
That's Frank Kemp.
I'm sorry, Frank Kemp. Sorry, Frank.
Right.
I got the wrong Frank going. My apologies. You don't look like Frank Kemp. He then employed the email over to Town Council Wayne Fox to ask for some guidance about, you know, what's step one, step two, what's the order in which we would pursue this if we were to pursue it. Clearly, the state bill that was passed and the wording of it is not the same as what's on record right now for Darien. The Darien is a dated piece from, I believe it was 2017, and this new legislation has some more other features to it that are not in the Darien wording. So if nothing else, the question is, you know, should we at least pursue getting Darien updated with what the state has passed? So I'm waiting for a response back on that. That email was sent to council about 10 days ago, and I've not heard back. I sent out an email this morning to Frank with a copy to council, again asking, you know, can you give us some guidance here on this? And so I really want to hear what Wayne has to say so we have some level of confidence about taking this thing any further. Is there any general consensus about this idea that it's good, bad, or whatever you might think? I think that at a minimum, we should at least get up to date with what the state has passed in that legislation back in July of last year. And then if that comes to pass, then I think we can have a discussion about to pursue broadening the EPC. Yeah, go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, Rolf, I agree. I think where we came out on this last time was, pending some of the conversations that you were going to have, that we didn't want to lose the opportunity to assign this power to somebody in town, and that, to Jacqueline's point, the existing EPC is probably the right place to go. So I would support what you just said, which is to update our it's statutes, or it's not our charter, but to make whatever updates we need to do administratively through TGSNA in order to empower the EPC to act as our flood control board.
Right. And then, we can take it from there, but I think that's the first step is to get caught up with where the powers that the state allows.
That
I
sounds great to me.
Okay, I have to say that I've looked at a number of other town websites, and I have to be honest that most of the initiatives that I see them putting forth are, again, confined to those things that are within the boundaries of the municipality per se, and not delving, aggressively into private land issues, if you will. And then the other thing, though, is that a lot of what they're doing is reactive. In other words, they're not pursuing where the problems are. They're reviewing applications that are being filed to do things that have an environmental impact, if you will. Okay. So if someone files an application to put a pool in the middle of a water course, then that's going to come to the EPC, and they're going to look at it and say, no, you can't do that kind of thing. But if you will, they're being reactive. They're being reactive to applications that are coming to them, and they're not going out to look at problems that exist throughout the town, some of them being on private land, to initiate anything to try and mitigate those flood problems. Okay, it's not a proactive posture that they're taking. It's more of a reactive posture to applications that are being filed. Did I explain that well enough?
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, what we're thinking about here possibly, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but is possibly taking it to that other step of looking at where the problems are and what can be done to try and mitigate the flooding, and wherever that may be. But again, let's try and get at least up to date with the state, and then we can look at that later on down the line once we get up to date. All right, so we'll leave it at, unless someone else has something to add or say about this topic, we can leave it at
Rolf,
that.
are you looking to make a motion on this tonight? I mean, I'm glad to make a motion in line with what we've just described, but I don't know if it's our place to do that yet.
Well, my recommendation, I really want to hear from Wayne Fox. I really want to hear from him, what would be the appropriate step one towards having the town of Darien adopt the similar or same powers as was granted in that state legislation back in July of last year. I really want to hear his direction in that regard about what would be step one. And then we can hear what that is. And then, yeah, if we think it makes sense, we can then start filing a motion about, putting together a letter or something to the Board of Selectmen, if that's where it goes, and start to take steps. That's my recommendation. Anybody disagree or have another idea? I guess not. That's fine. I don't know if you guys saw, I'm going to move on to the next item on the agenda here. Just briefly, if anybody has anything to report, anything on sewers, Frank? Although we've had quite a discussion already on the sewers.
Yeah, no, the most recent sewer commission meeting was prior to our last meeting, so I have nothing new to report.
Okay, Jackie, anything happening at the Committee of Sustainability? I know they had this drive this past weekend giving out compost.
Right, and there were some tree planting ceremonies at the middle school today. There's been a lot of Little Earth Week celebrations, but I haven't attended a meeting since I last reported here.
Okay. Richard, anything happening with the 5 Mile River Commission?
Nothing to report at this time.
Nothing to report, okay. And Paige, Coastal Waters.
Yes, they did have a meeting on Monday, but I wasn't able to attend, so I need to watch it and then I'll report back.
All right. Carrie, I know you're on the phone. If you can speak at all to public health and safety, anything worth noting there? I know that we've had a uptick in the
Yeah,
virus.
I need to, we have, and I need to see, I've been looking to see if there's a meeting that I can hop on and watch, but I have not found one since the break, since past the break,
All right.
April break for the kids.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
we have had, definitely, I know the Spain trip for the high school did cause an uptick at the high school.
Ah, a Spain trip.
The Spain trip that they take, the high school offers a trip. This year it was to Spain, and it sounds like a bunch of kids came down with COVID there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, joy.
I know, they got stuck there too. But you
No,
know,
don't-
I was saying to my daughter that's not as nice as it sounds because they had to stay in their hotel room.
Oh my God.
All right. On EPC, the only thing I would report is that I listened in on a more recent meeting. Again, their meetings are very long, but apparently there's another application to do some work in what's clearly a water course. I believe it's Stony Brook that runs through this property. And apparently it was when the house was put up for sale by a developer, they put in a post and rail fence to try and define the demarcation of the property lines, and it falls right where the water runs through. You know, in a flood situation. Okay, it generally is kind of dry, but when there's a heavy rain, apparently it turns into a water course. Okay, and they've also planted grass there in the area and that sort of thing. And they were trying to figure out a way to reorganize that property to mitigate the flooding that was occurring there. And, the EPC said, well, first of all, the fence shouldn't be there at all because now how it got there in the first place, a good question, because in a strong flooding situation, the fence will come down and could end up being dragged downriver and causing problems downriver. And I think they, had a valid point. And it's a good example of, how things go in, maybe with good intention, but end up causing real problems because, and the owners said, or the landscape architect said for this case, yes, in fact, the owners have had to reinforce the posts because they've been coming loose as a result of the water flow coming through there. And had they not done that, then yeah, that's a good possibility the fence would have come down and floated downstream. Another thing that EPC looks for is anything that's going to cause pollution. So another comment was, well, with the lawn there, people are putting down lawn fertilizer. Lawn fertilizer then in a flood situation is going to run downstream, and that would eventually end up draining out onto Long Island Sound, more nitrogen pouring into the sound. So they're very astute in what they look at and what they're concerned with. But again, it's all if they get an application that comes to their desk. So I just passed that along. Okay. Transfer station swap shop. I know that they're still busy and having people come. I know there was some discussion about them possibly opening on Saturday, but I don't know if that's gone anywhere. Does anybody have any idea or knowledge about that? Yeah, I think it's
no idea. This is Jeff. I was there, this weekend, and they had the compost giveaway with Earth Day on Saturday, but I didn't follow up afterwards,
Yeah.
and I haven't talked to them about opening of the swap shop. So Nothing I can help.
Was there a good turnout there for the compost?
I
Or is
think
it-
it was a modest turnout, but I think it was as expected. So it was a pretty modest turnout, honestly.
Okay. All right, I'm going to move on the calendar here. The next RTM meeting, that is the big meeting, the big one for the budget on May 9th. I don't know if you saw in your emails this afternoon, it's about 1 o'clock. An email was actually sent out by Krista, but it was actually initiated by Seth Morton, that the state legislature had passed in the House last week and then passed in the Senate today to continue to allow for meetings to be held virtually. We do not have to go back to an in-person meeting venue. So I believe that that would move the Rules Committee to continue having virtual meeting, even for the big budget meeting of May 9th. However, I have to say that I listened in on the rules meeting that was this week, in fact, Monday, and without having the knowledge about what the legislature was going to do, they had voted that it would be an in-person meeting with separation of seating, so you wouldn't be sitting, elbow to elbow. And it would also call for wearing of a mask. So that was their plan, assuming that we were going to have to go in person. I'm assuming that with this passage today, that we will go back to virtual, but I haven't heard an official statement from the Rules Committee to that effect. So I'll just leave it at that, because that's pretty much all that I know. Does anybody have an opinion about virtual versus in person at this point in time? One way or another?
I've only ever done virtual meetings. I would love to meet in person, just get to know people.
Same here. That'd be my preference, but not if I have to wear a mask. That's a hard nope for me.
Anybody else have an opinion about in person? Yeah, Frank?
Yeah, I mean, I strongly prefer the in-person for a whole bunch of reasons. I mean, I think it's the whole spirit of the representative town meeting is that we're supposed to be meeting. And even with a mask, I would prefer it in person.
Even with a mask?
100%.
Okay.
I agree with,
how about you?
I agree with Frank.
You agree with Frank?
I'd prefer it in person even with a mask.
I'll third Frank.
Okay. Jeff, how about you? What's your opinion?
Yeah, I'm very much in favor of being in person, with or without masks.
Frank can wear an extra mask for me.
Yeah, I'm all shot and boosted, so I'll wear as many masks as you want me to wear.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah, no, I tend to agree. The spirit is to meet together. I tend to be in Paige. I really don't like the idea of having to wear a mask, but
Well,
if I
my
have
man.
to, if I have to, I will, but I'm not happy to have to. I'll say that. That's about it. Anybody else want to chime in?
Well, I
Is the Rules
completely
Committee
agree that
looking
I don't
for
want to
feed-
wear one, but I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Rolf, is the
No,
Rules
I
Committee
don't want to
looking for
wear a
input?
mask, but, oh, sorry, Frank.
Go ahead,
I'm sorry, I
Frank.
keep talking over you. I apologize. Is the Rules Committee looking for our input, or is it just?
Well, I'll tell you what I will do, with your permission, and if we think we need a motion for this, that's fine. I'm willing to send an email off to the Rules Committee and say that, our consensus of opinion is that we should meet in person. Although there are some of us that are not happy about having to wear a mask, and I'll emphasize that it's a minority that feels that way, but that the majority feels we should meet in person regardless with or without mask. I'd be willing to send that email if you think that would be something to at least get in their ears to consider.
I think it's the sense of the meeting resolution we're looking for.
Say that again, Frank?
I think it's a sense of the meeting resolution you're looking for.
Sense of the meeting resolution. Is that
Right,
something
so-
you could put out as a motion and vote on?
Yeah, I think that's the way you normally would do something like that.
All right. Would someone be willing to?
So I'll make the motion to do exactly what Rolf just said.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second from Paige. Okay, we have the
Done.
motion on the floor to send a letter off to the Rules Committee advising them that the consensus from Public Works is that we should meet in person,
Masks optional.
with or without masks, although some of us would prefer
Optional.
without.
My body, my choice.
Okay, is there any other comments, amendments?
Nope.
Oh, goodness.
All right, if there are no other comments, we're ready to put this out for a vote. Okay, do we have any no votes on a letter to the RTM Rules Committee? Any no votes? Any abstentions to a letter to the RTM Rules Committee regarding meeting in person? No abstentions. Okay, then by default, the motion moves and is approved. I'll draft a letter. Do you guys want me to send it out to you beforehand, or you just want me to send it?
We trust you,
We
Ralph.
trust you, Ralph.
Yeah,
Thank
go
you
for
for
it.
doing it.
Oh my
Shoot from
God.
the hip.
Yes, send it.
It's a blank check.
Yeah.
All right, I'll do that. I'll get that off
Don't let it go to
tomorrow.
your head.
Hey,
Yeah,
who would,
don't believe me.
who would second that emotion? I didn't catch that. Frank,
I think it was
Frank made
Paige.
them.
It was
Okay.
Paige
Paige.
said. Paige Chris.
Okay, we're getting down to the end here, folks. Any new business? Anybody got anything that's come up that's new that we should consider as a public works related matter? Don't all talk at once.
Did
Nothing new?
did we approve the minutes? I didn't.
Oh, excellent point. No, we did
No.
not approve the minutes.
Nope.
Okay, I sent this off to Krista as a draft, about maybe 10 days ago or something like that? I don't know if you
think
guys had a chance to read it.
Yep.
Does anybody have any comments, criticisms, adjustments, corrections?
I think they were well written.
Oh, nice. All right, Waddy, you're getting a fan club.
There we go, of myself, which is fine.
Gotta
All
start.
right. Then do I have a motion to approve the minutes for our meeting of April 7th?
So moved.
So moved. Who is that? Jeff?
Jeff.
Do I have a second to approve the minutes?
I second.
Jacqueline seconds. Okay. Any comments about voting on this motion? No comments. Okay. Any no votes on approving the minutes? Any abstentions on approving the minutes? Therefore, by default, the minutes for April 7th are approved. So Waddy, if I may impose upon you, if you would please send those minutes to Krista McNamara
Okay.
and copy me in.
Yep.
And say that we met last night, we approved the minutes. Please enter these into the meetings calendar minutes. Meetings calendar minute.
Okay.
And that way it becomes a matter of public record. Very good. Thank you for catching that, Eric.
Sure.
Any other new business comments, criticisms? All right, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. Frank motions to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Richard seconds. Okay. We have motion to adjourn. Any no's? Any abstentions? By default, the motion moves. We are now adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.